Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Excelcast. I'm your host, Joe Parker, and today I'm with Gabe Motter. Now, Gabe went to Kutztown with me, and he studied sports management, and he graduated this year, and he took a job at St. Catherine's, being their gym teacher. And in the past, he's worked as an assistant basketball coach for the varsity team at the Kutztown Area High School, and he was the head basketball coach for their JV team. Gabe's going to talk about his experiences with us today. So, Gabe, welcome and thank you very much for being on.
Thank you, Joe Park. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. I coached there for 2 years, and honestly, one of the best 2 years I've had learning and growing with me and the kids I coached. It was a great time.
Yeah, absolutely. And you picked the word respect. So, do
I
you want to get
did.
into kind of like why you chose that word, being a coach and, having to connect with those kids and what respect really means to you on and off the court?
Yeah. So before coaching, I was a player for basketball, of course. Played my whole life, and then right after I was done playing, I was a referee, and I refereed basketball. And then 2 years later, I was coaching for 2 years. And in all three of those aspects, you have to earn respect. Whether you're a player, whether you're a referee, or whether you're a coach, you have to earn people's respect the entire time. And you also have to have other people earn your respect throughout that line. So I feel like that was a great word to use throughout this podcast because throughout my life journey, I feel like I've been constantly trying to earn people's respect along with my own respect.
Absolutely. So, how does having respect for yourself translate into others having respect for you? Because
Yeah, I mean,
I feel like for me, like that's the main thing. Like that's the first step is having self-respect and self-reliance and self-confidence, and then it translates into the real world.
exactly. You have to respect yourself before you can respect others. That's really what you have to do to start out. And could be more than basketball. It could be whatever you're passionate about, whether it's work, gym, whatever. But you have to start respecting yourself first, and then you can learn to grow and respect others.
Absolutely. I mean, when I break down the word respect, it's respective, right? So it's being
Yeah.
able to look at the position, situation, putting yourself in someone else's shoes and going, you know what? If I was in that same situation and those same exact circumstances, that's what I would do.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we don't think about the fact that everyone's a culmination of the life experiences that they have, and that's how we make decisions. So if we had the same amount of decision or the same type of decisions, choices, life experiences that happened to us, if we were at that point in time with those people, we would be making where those people are, we would be making the same decisions that they're making right now. And I think that's really where respect comes from, being able to see like, hey, I see where you're at. I see what you're doing. If I was in that same position, I would make that decision as well. And that
Yeah.
is what respect is when we look at it from that perspective.
Yeah. I 100% agree. And I mean, like, for me coaching, I had to put myself into almost a high school perspective. And me and you, we both went to high school together.
Yep.
And I feel like we both grew from high school to college 100%
Yep.
after those 4 years.
Yeah.
And, your personality, everything about you pretty much changes. You know,
Yeah.
you're not the same person you were in high school. I wasn't the same person.
Mm-mm.
And I kind of had to look and coach these kids in a high school perspective. Like, what did I want when I was a high school basketball player? Like, what was my wants and needs? And I kind of had to translate that from me because that's not the same person I am anymore. But I'm still young enough to relate to those kids where, like, it was only a couple years ago where I was in their shoes. Where some of these coaches, they're like 60, 70 years old. They can't have that relationship with them. So I feel like that was a key for me earning their respects is I had to translate from like almost like a big brother standpoint where
Mm.
like I was their mentor on one end, but I could also have that relationship where I can joke with them and have fun with them at the same time. So it was like a balance part. Like they knew they had to earn my respect on and off the court, but at the same time, I could joke around with them. I could have fun with them.
Yeah, absolutely. So how did you navigate being able to handle both them, being your friend and wanting to hang out with you, and then, also being their mentor? Because I feel like sometimes that can get really,
Yeah.
that line can get blurred sometimes. So how did you navigate that properly in order to, be the best coach and also be a friend to them as well?
Yeah, it was difficult, I would say more when I became the head coach second year, because the first year I was doing the internship there, I wasn't that close to them. Some of them thought I was like 26, 28 years old at that time, and then they found out, oh, you're only a couple years older than me. Um, so the second year, I feel like me coming back, it was harder because they already knew what I was about. They knew I was younger, and I kind of had to set the tone early. Like, listen, I am your coach. I'm when it's on the court, when we're practicing, when we're on bus rides, when it's before the game, during the game, wherever. I am your coach, and you need to respect me that way. But if it's after practice, you know, maybe I'll loosen up to you a little bit, and on and off the season. Because, like, some of them gave me their phone numbers and they still text me. And one of them sent me a video of them dunking for the first time. And it was a great thing to see. So I just felt like I set the standpoint early this year that I need to be your coach and you need to respect me during practices, games, and whatever. But after, I loosened up a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And being able to convey that message to them is very important, and to be
Yeah.
clear with them, hey, during practices, I'm your coach. And then afterwards, we can joke around, we can hang around. But, I feel like sometimes it's hard, especially at that age, to know where that line is. So you have to
Yeah.
clearly convey it to them in order for them to properly know, what the real, what's going on and how they should be and how they should act.
Exactly. Exactly.
Hey man, so you went to McDevitt with me, as you had mentioned. You went to high school with me. How did going to McDevitt and how did God play a role in your ability to be an athlete, be a coach, and be a referee, and just contribute overall to your work ethic?
Yeah, it's a big part in my life. I'm very spiritual. Um, I went to St. Catherine's where I'm being a gym teacher
Yep.
since 3 years old. So I've been in a Catholic school my whole life until we did go to Kutztown. So I feel like, going to church every Sunday, especially during school on the Fridays, played a huge part. It's almost like, to me, it's very relaxing. You know, when you go to church, you kind of like set aside everything for an hour. You forget
Yep.
about your worries, you forget about the stress, everything you have, and then you kind of have it's like a stress reliever. It's almost meditation too, if some people, look at it that way. But I feel like, before every game, before any activity, whether it's eating or whatever, me and my family, we pray. And that's what we did, at McDevitt. Before each game, we prayed. Before each class, we prayed. And then shifting to a college perspective, no one's telling you to do that anymore. So then you kind of have to decide on your own, are you going to continue that or are you going to separate? And I think for both of us, we continued that. And
Yeah.
I'm very thankful for it that, I was raised that way where I continued it each and every day in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just speaks to overall work ethic, and religion is how you said you got to continue to do it even when you're not being reminded how to do it or to do it in general. Like you have to
Yeah.
make that choice. So work ethic and discipline overall, I feel like that's a big key point of it, is always making those choices and always making those decisions to, you know, want to be better, whether it be that relationship that you have with God, or whether that be your your workouts, your coaching, your discipline, your studies, whatever it may
Yeah.
be. that's it plays a role and it connects to everything, that I think we all lose that work ethic at the beginning of college, because you go from being at school at what was it, 7:30 in the morning to
Yep.
2:30 in the afternoon every single day. Now it's like, oh, I got one class at 11, I got one class at 1. I'm free. I don't have to do
Yeah.
anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can go to lunch wherever I want. I don't have to go to the cafeteria. So then there's another choice you now have to make. What are you going to have for lunch? Are you going to have fried chicken, or are you going to have grilled chicken? Things like that.
Exactly.
So it carries over into decision making as a whole. So that's a great point that you made. And,
Yeah.
I love that concept of making the choice, and that college does that for you as well.
Yeah. Because
Um,
in high school, I mean, you have your parents, you have your teachers, everyone's supporting you. And that's the thing that, is kind of scary when you first go to college. You're all on your own. Like it's
yeah,
just you making decisions. No one's helping you. And then
absolutely.
everyone there in your dorm room or whatever, they're all doing the exact same thing.
Hmm.
So it's just a bunch of you that are clueless pretty much.
Yeah.
And you all kind of have to work together. That's why you need those friends at the start because you have no one else to depend on, but you guys need each other.
Yeah. I mean, I know that like when you first start out at college, right? Like you feel like you're alone. But when you meet a bunch of people who are alone, you can kind of be like, hey, we're all alone. We might as well, not be alone. We might as well
Yeah,
get together and form a community. And it teaches you how to reach out, how to be open, how to network, and all that
yeah,
stuff. So I think college is really, getting thrown to the wolves, for lack of a
yeah,
better term. Like they're like, hey, like your parents drop you off, like we're an hour away. For us, they're not that far, but they're still like, hey, like we're not going to be here every day. We're not going to be here to here's how to do laundry, things like
yeah,
that. So
exactly. It's
I
almost
think,
like a start over if you wanted to.
yeah,
You can earn people's respect in a different way that you wanted to differently from high school or grade school.
yeah,
You're not
absolutely.
seeing the same people every day. And then you can go about it that way, see what the pros and the cons are to that.
Yeah, and you can also, I feel like going to college helps you with respect to your parents.
Exactly.
Like you go to college and you're like, wow, like my mom was doing this laundry every day. My parents were
Yeah.
doing the dishes every day. Like, you know what I mean? Especially if you didn't do that. Now, some people, their parents worked that into their lives, but if they hadn't, you see every single thing that your parents wanted you to do throughout that they did for you throughout your life, that you
Yeah.
never had to work into your schedule. And now you have to be so diligent with all these other things that your parents want you to, or did for you, that they did want you to do. They wanted to be like, hey, like,
Yeah.
can you do the dishes, can you fold the laundry, can you do X, Y, and Z. And you know so you gain some respect from that, and it helps you develop as a full character, as a full person. And I think that's one of the main things. College teaches you some things in the classroom, but about life, I think that's the main takeaway from college that I got personally.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. And just going back on coaching as well, what's the best thing about coaching for you? Like, what's the best? You could either share a personal experience that you had, a single experience, or like just the overall feeling. Like when X happens, you feel Y. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So,
I'm I would say, I mean, there's a lot of pros to coaching. I really didn't have any negatives to it at all. I mean, it was just the fact that the kids gained my trust, I feel like, and I
yeah,
gained their trust throughout that process. And at first, there was this one story of, my team before, they weren't the best coming in. I had all pretty much freshmen, a couple sophomores, juniors, but they were like, yeah, we kind of struggled in the past. And I told them, we're staying man all season. We're not playing any zone in basketball for defense. And the one kid was like, well, we're good at zone. And I go, well, your record doesn't show it in the past. Your record, I'm going to be honest with you. So we're going to try this. And they were all hesitant at first. They said they couldn't do it. First couple games, we couldn't win. We were below 500. And then out of nowhere, it clicked. Once they earned that trust, that one game, and they went on a roll from there. And then they ended 14-8, which was like one of their first ever winning records, I think, for that freshman class. And it was a great thing to see, from my standpoint, having parents come up to me and they were like, I never saw my kid have a winning season ever.
Yeah,
To like telling me like you did amazing, having, compliments from both the parents and the kids. It was a great feeling, honestly, because at the end of it, at the beginning I didn't earn their respect, but at the end, it showed that I did.
that's awesome. Being able to come in and kind of switch up how they do things and earning their
Yeah,
trust, and you believed in it, right? You
yeah,
analyzed properly, you did your homework, and you believed in what you had to say, and that confidence, that self-respect, like, you know what? No, like, I know the game of basketball. I know what's
hmm,
going on here. I see what they're doing. I see how it's working out for them, and it's not working out for them.
yeah,
So a change has to occur here. So I
yeah,
like that you had the confidence and the self-respect, to go in and be like, hey, this ain't it. And another point I wanted to touch on is when you said that the kid goes, oh, we're good at it. And
yeah,
him saying, oh, we're good at it, that means we're comfortable with that.
yeah,
Like
exactly.
it comes easy. And I feel like a lot of people are like stuck at a place right now because they feel like they're good at something, and that
Yep,
them being like, "Oh, I'm good at something," they keep having a losing record because they're not growing and they're not looking back and self-reflecting and looking at the track
exactly.
record that they had and going, "Hey, maybe I'm just comfortable and not good at this thing."
Yeah. And it was funny at the end of the year, our final weeks at Kutztown. I saw all these freshman kids that I coach, walk into our famous restaurant, Tommy Boy's. Shout out
Yep.
Tommy Boy's. But
Yep.
they all ran up to me, started talking to me, and they said that, they got a new coach and everything. And they were like, yeah, but they watched the JV film. And he said that, oh, what we're going to do is pretty much the defense that I gave them. And he was like, we were happy about that. And it was the same exact kid. And I was like, really? I was like, you're happy about that. At the beginning of the season, you weren't so happy about it. Like, once he started winning and seeing the progress, his mindset definitely changed.
Absolutely, man. And
Yeah.
just that that overall impact that you had, not like when you had that self-respect, right? That self-confidence, and you came in and you said, no, like this, we're going to change this up. This is how we're going to do things. You now have impacted not just yourself because you excelled at what you did, not just those players because, they're going to come and go when they leave high school, they're going to leave high school, but you've
Yeah.
also impacted that coach that's going to be there because now that coach is going to be teaching the kids after those kids the playbook and the style of defense that you taught them, that you said, no, this is what we're doing. And that would have never happened had you
Yeah.
not had the self-confidence in yourself to go out there and be like, no, I know what I'm doing. I know basketball. This is not working right now. So that's amazing that that self-confidence has now bred a legacy of change within the organization that you were a part of.
Yeah. That's a great perspective to put it at. I mean, I didn't
Yeah.
even look about it that way, but yeah, it's cool. It's cool to see. I wish those kids the best.
Yeah, dude. Absolutely. And just, speaking on generations, right? You go to St. Catherine since what? You were 3 years old?
Yeah.
And
3-year-old
now you're
preschool.
circling back, right?
I know, it's weird, yo.
You're
It's weird.
circling back. You probably leaving that place in eighth grade. I mean, I know anyway, my eighth grade, I was like, I'm not
Uh,
coming back here, man. Like there ain't
never.
no way. Right?
Yeah.
And now you're like, you know what? I'm gonna come back. So what went into that decision? What went into, choosing, hey, St. Catherine's?
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't even like towards senior year. Like, it wasn't even the mindset I had. Like, that's going to be my first job out of school. It just kind of happened where, one of my family members said that job's open at St. Catherine's, gym teacher, you should apply. And I thought about it for a little bit, didn't apply. And then realistically, I was like, oh, let me just see, how the interview process goes, the application, all that. And the principal was great and everything. And then I got to meet some of the teachers, and then some of my old students or like the classmates that I had are actually teaching there too. And I didn't even know that. And it was nice to, kind of see your old roots and everything again. And it kind of hit home. Like, this is my home.
Yeah.
And that's walking the hallways, I think, is what did it for me. Like, I
Mm.
remember, going through these
Mm.
hallways 8 years ago, and before that, the past, what, 10, 12 years.
Yep.
And now I'm back, but it's definitely a different experience because I was the one, learning, where now I'm the one teaching. It's a whole
Yeah.
different perspective. And both neighbors on either side, their kids go to St. Catherine's too.
Okay.
And they're super excited for me to be the gym teacher there. And, I'm looking forward to it.
Dude, absolutely. Like, even looking at the whole, like, just going in, right, and seeing the school and having the perspective of, I'm now an authority figure in this building rather
Yeah.
than a kid. I mean, how did it just look, like, even physically? Maybe not even how you felt in there, but just like physically, did it look how it looked when you were younger? Do
Dude, I'll
you
tell you
even?
what, like those doors, like I used to jump up and reach for the top of like the doors and everything,
Yeah.
but I don't know, it feels like everything shrunk just because of how bigger you got or how big you got. But I don't know, it's a different perspective because they're building a new gym right now. They're building a new outground or outdoor playground. So everything's changing in there, like
Yeah.
different from what I saw it. So once I start the job in 2 weeks, it's definitely going to be like a different perspective for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have any plans of coaching there or doing anything like that with what you've
Yeah.
done at Kutztown?
Yeah, they asked me during the interview process,
Mm.
about that. They were like, "We by what your record shows, we would love to have you coach here and everything." And I told him I would think about it.
Yeah.
I feel like once I connect with the kids I'm teaching and they know I was a former coach, they're definitely going to persuade me to probably really reconsider coaching for them.
Oh
But
yeah.
yeah, it's going to be, it's not far off in age group. I would probably do the older, like seventh and eighth grade boys varsity, but it would definitely be a different mindset and attitude towards it just because, those kids were in a public high school. This is a Catholic grade school. It's a lot different. It would be definitely a different style of coaching that I have to adapt to.
Yeah. And being able to change your perspective to be able to respect those kids,
Yeah.
for lack of a better term, for lack of a better term, being able to respect them in a sense of, okay, when I was in seventh and eighth grade, how was I a little bit different than I was when I was in high school?
Yeah. It's a
So
lot
being able
different, man.
to adapt and move through that, that's definitely going to be a challenge for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I will see where it goes. I mean, I'm always open to opportunity, but we'll see if that's the route I take down the road here soon.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's one of like the main things that you strive to be in your daily life? Or let me rephrase. What is your why? Like, why do you want to be a teacher? Why do you want to be a coach potentially?
Yeah.
What is the driving force behind wanting to surround yourself in that type of environment?
Mm. Well, at first, when I went to sports management, my goal was to, work for a big sports organization like the 76ers or somewhere in Philly. Like that was the goal. And once I did my internship there, I was like seeing the progress and seeing, these kids just, look at me and understand what I'm saying. I was like, oh, they're actually, listening to what I'm saying and they earn my respect. And it was kind of like it was a good feeling to have, honestly, that like you gain the trust of them and then you're also gaining the trust of their parents because they're bringing their kids to practice every day and they're saying how much their kids are enjoying basketball. And then from there it was just an onward route where I was like, okay, maybe gym teacher won't be that bad because I'm just teaching them in a physical education standpoint. And, I have some things lined up there that I want to do and have some fun, but we'll see where it goes. I mean, I think that's the route I'm probably going to take now from here on out is, trying to teach these children and the youth, the better values to have in exercise, really.
Yeah, like good practices, and
Yeah.
approach it from a point of like an exercise science kind of mindset rather than just I'm a gym teacher, here's a basketball or here's dodgeballs, throw them at each
Yeah.
other, things like that. Being fully immersed and finding a purpose within what you do is definitely going to be a solid driving force for being the best gym
Yeah.
teacher that you can be.
Yeah. It'll be fun. It'll be fun.
Yeah, dude. So do you have any plans in the future other than, being a gym teacher, potentially coaching basketball? You playing in any AAU leagues, anything like
Yeah.
that?
So I missed the opportunity because I had plans, but there was like a thing to be a college referee for
Yep.
trying out there. And like I'm
Okay.
still doing that every weekend. I have 16 games in a next weekend lined up, but uh yeah, I feel like that could be a nice, little route to have too is, refereeing. Not only high school that I'm doing now, but college and getting
Yeah.
up to that standpoint and working up there and maybe having a career in that. But I'll have to wait another year for that to do the training and everything. But that's something that I'm definitely considering in the future.
Yeah, it sounds like your mindset's really toward, advancing your career in being a referee. So that's awesome,
Yeah,
buddy.
yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. So what does your ideal life look like, Gabe? Like what if you could have it your way, what would be your dream job, your dream goal? I know it's a hard hitting
yeah,
question to drop on someone mid podcast,
yeah,
but I am curious as to where you want to. I know it's step by step, right? I know every
yeah,
day you may change, but what is your dream look like? What are you
yeah.
doing?
So it's a great question. I feel like my dream job constantly changes for
Yep.
me. Like,
Yep.
I feel like every year there's just something else that I want to do, but it's always revolved around sports for me. Like, I
Yep.
love staying in shape. I love just the idea of a win lose concept, exercise throughout the process, like all that. So it's definitely something in sports. It's just a matter of what it could be. Maybe, working my way up to being a referee.
Yep.
For a while, I kind of wanted to be an athletic director while coaching and maybe working up to a great, collegiate level. Like my favorite sports team is Duke. Um, Working, Duke over North Carolina. Let's calm down. But,
No, no, let's calm down over there. Anyway, back to the podcast.
but yeah, maybe working like as an AD towards like a Division 1 school or
Yep.
even like a coach there. So I feel like, those are like the roots I have, all revolving around sports. But who knows? It could change back to, wanting to work for the 76ers again
Yeah.
and getting into there. I don't know. We'll see what
Yeah, kind
happens.
of like dropping that seed. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
oh, hey, 76ers over here. And then you
yeah,
do your life. You start out helping the kids. You start out at St. Catherine's. Then you grow, you network, and who knows? One day it may circle back. And I hope it does if that's the plan and that's the route
yeah,
you want to take. And I think it really speaks to who you are and the fact that you love learning because your dream job always changes. You know what I mean? You're
yeah,
like, oh, if this is me today and this is how I feel and this is my perspective, this is my dream job. This is what I want to do. But tomorrow it may change. Tomorrow may be a little different. So the
exactly.
fact that you're constantly learning and constantly revolving as a person and always adaptable, that really speaks to, you know, the fact that your answer was that your dream job's always changing. Your
Yeah.
dream's always changing.
I feel like nowadays people get way too comfortable in different situations, whether, that's your weight, your job, all that. People get comfortable. And the second you get comfortable is pretty much the day you lose the battle with yourself.
Absolutely.
So I feel like it's just you always need to find something new to do, whether that's sport, whether that's in the gym, your diet, anything. Spiritually, mentally, just find something new to get you out of that comfort zone.
Yeah, it's always moving forward. It's always
Yeah.
making yourself just 1% better in anything that you do. And like you said, it doesn't necessarily have to be fitness. It doesn't have to
Yeah.
be grades. It doesn't have to be making money. It could be in any aspect of your life, your relationships with God, your spirituality, your mindset, your relationship with yourself. Any of those aspects can constantly be worked on. So I think it's important that people look at least one or two of these concepts, right? Probably one would be best, and
Yeah.
just pinpoint that one thing that they want to work on and just really focus on that and work on that to the best of their ability every day. And even if it's 1% better, if it's 2%, that's fantastic. But shoot to be a little bit better today than you were yesterday.
Yeah.
And, you know, I feel like that is a huge thing in a lot of successful people's lives, is
Yeah.
just being a little bit better than they were yesterday, being consciously aware of what's going on around them, and just also being a positive, high energy influence on people around them.
Yeah. I 100% agree.
Yeah. So, I know that you had a quote for us
I did.
that you
I
wanted to
did.
share.
So my quote is
Yep.
from Denzel, and I
Yep.
think it, relates to the podcast a lot, and especially, what we just talked about. It's
Yep.
he who says he can and he who says he can't is both usually right. And
Okay.
and I just feel like, touching on the last thing we talked about, if people say, they're going to change their mindset or they're going to change something about them, they'll usually do it. Like they'll
Yeah.
achieve their goal if they are set on that. If people say, "Oh, it's impossible. I can't do this. I can't do that," they're not even going to try. They're not even going to try. They're going to be too comfortable at where they're at, and that's a negative. It's a negative.
Absolutely,
Because
man.
so I just feel like it's a great quote that we just last touched on.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Have you ever listened to Eric Thomas?
I a little bit.
So Eric Thomas is one of my favorite motivational speakers. And I believe when he was 16, his mom kicked him out of the house and he was homeless. He dropped out of high school and lived in abandoned buildings, going house to house. And he didn't really know where his life direction was. And one day he just kind of was like, yo, like, who are you? Like you are Eric Thomas. You are worthy of everything. Go get your GED. Go take these tests. Go become, and eventually he became a doctor. He's now a doctor and he does motivational speaking all over the world. And it was just that drive and that determination that really, propelled him to be who he is today. And imagine the amount of excuses that someone who is homeless, who
Yeah,
dropped out of high school, whose parents don't, his mom didn't talk to him, his dad wasn't in his life for a long time. Like they talk to him now,
yeah,
obviously, but like, at one point, like he was completely alone. He was completely abandoned. And, imagine that person. Now think of any excuse that you've ever thought of.
yeah,
And I guarantee you it doesn't match up to that. So the
exactly.
example that he sets with he who thinks he can, that's definitely someone that I think of whenever I think of that specific quote.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, dude, even you, like you did that quote. I mean, really, like I'm sorry, but like over the past year, you really did that quote. You did that every day, and you're still
Yeah.
doing it.
I'm my goal is to be what I say, right?
Yeah,
That's that got to be the goal. Have self-respect. So if you say you're going to do something, do it. It's how you
yeah,
build self-confidence with yourself. It's how a lot of people, build self-confidence with themselves, is just keeping that keeping that positive reputation with yourself, and keeping that every time you make a promise to yourself and you break it, you ruin your reputation with yourself. Just think
yeah,
about it. If someone made a promise to you and they broke that promise, you would kind of, you'd be like, okay, all right, it happens. All right, it happens. And then the fourth or fifth time, you're like, is this dude even worth my time? And that, you can get to a point where you feel like that.
Yeah.
And people can get to a point where they feel like that about themselves. So if you're watching this and you're out there, the one thing that you need to do is to start keeping those positive, keeping those promises and positive reactions to if you're out today and you're watching it, what you need to do is to ensure that you keep your positive and your reputation with yourself. Keep a
Yeah.
positive reputation with yourself. I
You
finally
need to
got it out,
respect your
Gabe.
you need to respect your own words too. Like you
Yes,
need to respect it. Like
yes, absolutely.
circling back to our main word, like just if you respect your word, like you respect other people's, because a lot of people respect other people's words more than their self.
Yeah.
And it's a struggle that a lot of people have. But if you start respecting your own word, I feel like
uh,
a lot of positives will come out of that. And you'll start getting those 1% every day.
Yeah, absolutely. Just hitting the dart, man. If you go, hey, I'm gonna walk a mile today, just walk the mile. You don't
Yeah.
have to walk. You don't have to do those. You know, you don't have to do a 5K. You don't have to do at 5 miles. You don't have to do anything like that. Just do what you tell yourself you're gonna do, and that compounds and that builds, and that's that 1%.
Yeah.
Making yourself a promise today that you're gonna do something that you did not do yesterday, and then you build, and then you keep building, and then when you get comfortable, not comfortable, but comfortable. When you get comfortable with that one thing, that's when you grow. When you're like, hey, I'm really good at this.
Yeah.
Time to grow. Time to move on to something else and get 1% better today.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, Gabe. So thank you for coming on, man. If
Yeah.
anyone
Thank
wants
you,
to
man.
follow you on Instagram, what is the Instagram for you?
It's just Gabe Motter, all lowercase.
Awesome,
Simple as
man.
that.
It was an absolute pleasure to have you on. Anyone who's out there listening right now, follow us on Spotify at Excelcast. Follow us on Instagram at Excelcast_. And most importantly, stay blessed and excel.